This-
Okay.
Okay, so welcome to June 2021 with Astronomy Tidbits and Steve Layman from CAS. Steve's going to share with us some celestial activities for the month. So go right ahead, Steve. Tell us what you got.
Okay. So we're looking at what's new on Mars. As you know, we've got two rovers actively doing research on the planet Mars. And if you have not looked at the NASA Mars site recently, when you bring it up, you get this really cool dashboard that gives you today's weather on Mars, some recent images. It kind of shows you a comparison of the distance between Earth and Mars and the Sun, and also some of the latest findings. So this is just the first of many great pages that you can get on the NASA Mars website. So I would suggest that you check it every couple of days and just see what's happening with the rovers up there. Night sky events for June. There isn't anything really great except that there will be an annular solar eclipse on the morning of June 10th. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. The planets are generally in the early morning hours. So unless you're up after midnight, you're not going to have the opportunity to see Jupiter and Saturn, which are usually the big two for viewing in small telescopes and binoculars. Special astronomical events for June. I always try and dig up some new websites for you to check out. I've started with kind of the traditional what's up in the month of June. This is NASA's monthly production. I just realized that I may have pulled up the wrong year. I thought I was pulling up 2021, but it looks like I may have pulled up 2020. If that's the case, I will send Kathie an updated version of this PowerPoint for you all to check. The Space Tourism Guide is kind of if you were thinking about astronomy in the sense of being a tourist in our solar system, it's a great monthly guide. Talks about the things that you can see, and just a great resource. And then Skywatcher is a maker of great telescopes, and they produce a weekly podcast that comes out every Friday. And the one that I have referenced here is the one that talks about the June night skies. So you can click on that. Again, when this is over, I'll check and make sure that I get the June 2021 NASA What's Up listed in the proper page. So annular eclipse. Eclipses are situations where because of the relationship spatially to the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, when they line up in just the right place, the Sun is completely or partially blocked out. The Sun's diameter is about 400 times larger than that of the Moon, and the Sun is about 400 times farther away from the Earth. So when the Moon is at just the right spot, it can cover completely the Sun, but the Moon moves around the Earth in an elliptical orbit. And so sometimes it's closer to the Earth, and sometimes it's farther away from the Earth when it's in front of the Sun. This week, when we have the annular eclipse on the morning of June 10th, the Moon's going to be closer to the Earth, and so won't quite cover the entire face of the Sun. Also, your view of the eclipse depends on your position on the surface of the Earth. And so for the eclipse this coming Thursday, we're going to see kind of what is known as a cookie bite eclipse. A chunk of the Sun will be covered by the Moon as as the sun is rising in the early morning hours here in Central Virginia. Right here, the annual eclipse for June 10th, annular solar eclipse for June 10th, 2021, is an actual timetable. And if you have your computer set up to be able to let websites know your position, it will give you a time frame for when exactly from your position you'll be able to see the eclipse. But basically it's at sunrise this Thursday. Just a couple of reminders: never, ever, ever, don't you dare ever look at the sun without proper eye protection, especially if you're using binoculars or a telescope. If you're going to be using binoculars or a telescope, you've got to have the proper filter. And if you still have your eclipse glasses from the Great American Eclipse of 2018, those would be perfect for being able to look at this Thursday's eclipse. If you don't have eclipse glasses, you can project the sun's image onto a white sheet of paper or cardboard. Best way to do that is poke a small hole into a piece of cardboard and then put a white sheet of paper about 2 or 3 feet behind it. You can also use a piece of aluminum foil with a tiny hole punched in. The aluminum foil gives you a bit sharper circle. So I would suggest using the aluminum foil projection if you've got the ability to do that. I think you'll get a cleaner image. So the annular eclipse in a perfect world is called a ring of fire eclipse. And so to the left of this map, you would see what an annular eclipse would look like if you were in the optimum position on Earth at just the right time. The moon is not quite big enough. It's closer to the Earth than it might be for a full eclipse. And so a bit of the sun is shining around, especially down here at the bottom. So what we're going to see is more of the cookie bite eclipse over here on the right-hand side. And our cookie bite is actually going to be flipped around. Our cookie bite is going to be on the left-hand side. And you can see that in the map that we've got here, that it shows that we're down in the area here where we're going to see, depending on where you're at, a fairly significant bite out of the cookie. Again, this is going to be happening as the sun rises. So especially those of you that are on top of the mountain, you'll have, I think, a little bit better viewing and longer viewing cycle than the rest of us. Next thing that I wanted to do was talk a little bit about things in the night sky, as we always do. Looking at the June eastern sky, some of the asterisms or constellations that are most prominent are Cygnus the Swan, and Lyra the Harp, and Aquila the Eagle. And these are definitely up by about 10:30 in the evening. I think this particular slide from Stellarium was set for 10:28 in the evening on the 15th of June. Just a reminder, Stellarium is one of those free apps that you can get. It works on either a PC or a Mac. You can download it, and it's a great way to study the night sky. You can set any date or time in the past or in the future, and it allows you to see what the night sky looked like or will look like at any given time. So zooming in on that image that we had just a little minute or so ago of the eastern night sky, this is a blown up version of what we call the summer triangle. We've got Vega, which again is the predominant star in Lyra the Harp. We've got Deneb, which is the tail of the swan flying, and we've got Altair the Eagle, and this is kind of the body, or the middle of the body of the eagle. These fly over the night sky from basically June through into September and even October. You can see the summer triangle. The nice thing about the summer triangle in this particular image is that it shows a couple of other star asterisms that you can see. There's a mini Cassiopeia down in the smaller angle, and also an asterism that looks a little bit like a coat hanger, which you can see in a pair of binoculars or a small telescope. The other interesting thing about this particular summer asterism is that the star Albireo, which is right here, which is the head of the swan, is actually a double star. And if you take a look at it through a small telescope, you can see that the stars are different. One is yellowish orange and the other is blue. The blue star is a bright, hot, young star, and the yellowish orange star is kind of puffed up, older, and cooler. As stars get older, their temperature changes, they cool down a bit, and their outer layers tend to puff off and slough off into to space, and as that happens, they cool and they're a little bit on the orange and yellow side. So as you look at this star naked eye, it looks like a single, but in a telescope or a pair of binoculars, it's a double star. Next, we've got the actual what we call the spring triangle. This is in the west. The spring triangle takes a corner of Spica, whoops, just lost it, and Deneb, and we have another one of the triangles, asterisms. It's not quite as bright as the summer triangle, but it's a great way to kind of learn things in the night sky if you can begin to see how some of these things begin to fit together. So again, the spring triangle will be visible in the west at about 10:30 in the evening. The other thing that I wanted to point out was as you take a look towards the south from June into July and August, we're basically looking towards the center of our galaxy. And this is another stellarium image, and you can see all of these little yellow circles with crosses, little green squares. These are a variety of different types of astronomical objects. We're dealing with star clusters, we're dealing with nebulae, and we're dealing with just a variety of those objects that amateur astronomers enjoy looking at in the night sky. Most of these things can be viewed with a small telescope. Some of them actually are visible in a pair of binoculars. But if you've got the Stellarium app on your phone or on your computer, it's great fun to kind of look at some of these things on the computer and then see if you can go out and find them in the night sky and learn to see what kinds of things are. Some are gas clouds, some are globular clusters, which are balls of thousands of stars kind of gravitationally bound together. Some of them are planetary nebulae. They are the remnants of a dying star, so they look a little bit like a circle, and that's the reason that they got the term planetary nebulae. But that's what happens when a star dies and doesn't explode, but instead its outer shell kind of wafts off into space. One of the really great planetary nebulae in the summer sky is a ring nebula, and it's found in Lyra the Harp. And I'm not sure why it doesn't show up as a little marker on this particular map, perhaps because I don't have it zoomed in enough, but it's right about here between these two stars, the lower two stars of Lyra the Harp. So lots of deep sky object viewing, not much in the way of planets other than the moon in the month of June. Get up early on Thursday so that you can see the annular eclipse. We'll keep our fingers crossed that it's not cloudy in the morning. And again, remember whenever you're observing the sun, make sure that you're doing it safely with the proper protection. Never look at the sun naked eye, or especially not through a pair of binoculars or a telescope without a special filter. So thanks for being with us this month. We'll look forward to being with you again in July.
Well, that was awesome. Thanks, Steve.